morning. This is Vicki Jervickas at the Greater Gainesville Chamber, and I am the Director of Public Policy and Grassroots Engagement. And I'm really happy to have David Arreola joining us today. He is one of our incumbents on the City Commission, but he is running for Gainesville Mayor in this election. So we're going to spend a little time with David and get a chance to get to know him even better than we already do. So jump right in, David.
Yeah, thanks for hosting this. It really is an honor. Being a city commissioner has just been one of the most fulfilling experiences of my life. I was born and raised here in Gainesville. My parents emigrated from Mexico in 1987. They lived in Corey Village. That was my first home. And Corey Village is actually affordable housing for graduate students at the University of Florida. And the reason why I bring up this anecdote first is because affordable housing is one of the biggest issues right now in Gainesville. We have skyrocketing house prices, really inflated house prices in a lot of cases. We have rents that are now being pressured to go up all around the city. And we have a lot of people moving here to Gainesville. And it isn't just the students. UF has not increased enrollment. Santa Fe's enrollment has gone down. And so what we're seeing is everybody else, really the rest of us, growing Gainesville. And, you know, there are so many reasons why. You know, some of it is family, some of it is jobs, some of it is to come here and, you know, much like my parents, they came to the university and wanted to sort of build a life here. So when I first ran for the city commission, it was really to be a public servant. And I wanted to give back to the city that has really made, you know, my parents' life and my family's life what it is. And so the last 5 years, I focused a lot on improving people's quality of life in Gainesville. I focused a lot on housing. I focused a lot on rental housing. I focused a lot on youth services and making sure that there's enough career education out there for young people, but also that we're not just offering services to youth or jobs to youth, but that we're really trying to create a system of development where young people in Gainesville and Alachua County, no matter where you live, you can have access to the resources that you need, and your family can have access to the resources that you need, so that you can enjoy what everyone seems to enjoy in Gainesville, which is a high quality of life. We know that not everyone is at that level. We know that we have a lot of poverty in this community, but we're doing everything we can to try and open up avenues of opportunity for people. My, I would say, biggest accomplishment that I've had on the city commission is the discussion of renewable energies. If you look at the mayor's race, it's front and center now. And that's because of direction that I gave to the city commission, which is for us to get off of fossil fuels and to focus more on renewable energies. Now, I know there's a transition cost to that, but the transition cost is actually less than it's ever been before, because renewable energies like solar arrays are 4 times more efficient, and they're a lot cheaper than they were 20 years ago. So GRU right now is at an interesting crossroads where at the end of this year, we are going to do a lifetime assessment for one of our 50-year-old coal plants to see if, you know, how many years it has left on its life. But even if it's in great condition after 50 years, we're only looking at possibly another 5 years. So we're hitting a place now where Gainesville is going to have to decide what to do about our next generation after we retire the coal facilities in the next decade. And I think it's time for us to look at renewable energy options, and solar arrays are the most obvious renewable energy. You know, my other job is to work in the solar industry. I install solar arrays with my bare hands, actually. And it's been really educational, because I've learned what solar is capable of. And, you know, some of what it cannot do, because it is a cycle energy that relies on battery technology in some cases. And obviously, you would need battery for when the sun is not shining. So I have been exploring other options. I want to be very clear, though, because some of my opponents have put out the idea that we're looking at another biomass plant. We are not. We are not looking at another biomass plant. We have the largest one in the country already. I don't think we need to have 2 of the largest ones in the country. However, there is emerging technology in taking solid waste from landfills and compressing it into fuel cubes that actually can burn 85% renewable and can take the place of coal. So these are the types of opportunities that are going to keep coming up as more and more scientists and investors understand the dangers of climate change and how important it is for us to invent and improve upon renewable energies. So that's the kind of leadership that I want to bring for Gainesville and the City Commission. I think that my 5 years on the commission gives me a unique perspective because we governed during some good times and we did govern during some hard times in the pandemic. And so now I think the opportunities for what local government can do for people are greater than they've been before, mostly because we have a commission with lots of experience right now, but also Gainesville is growing at a rate that it has never grown before. And so a lot of my candidacy is based in hope for the future in Gainesville. And I would say that's my overall message for the voters.
Okay, terrific. All right, well, I think my questions will give you a chance to amplify a couple of the things you've already said.
Sure.
So the first one, of course, is what do you perceive are the three most important concerns facing Gainesville today?
Yeah, the cost of living is the number one concern right now for people in Gainesville. We are being affected by international gas prices. That's affecting people. That's also affected their GRU bill this year. The price of natural gas is 3 times more expensive now than it was at the beginning of the year. And that is a cost that all GRU customers have to share. And so when I talk about pivoting to renewable energies, I'm also talking about not having to pay as much market rate fuel in the future because we have really been hit hard by those prices. And everyone I talk to has had a higher GRU bill. Many people doubling their bill, which, one of the other things that I've really promoted is energy conservation and the rental housing ordinance that I was able to pass alongside my colleagues, really emphasizing energy efficiency for homes. But at the end of the day, there is still a cost to pay with fossil fuels and natural gas. So the other issue that I think is really big in Gainesville right now is economic development. We have a lot of folks who are, I will say they're concerned with what's going on in the city because of the development. People have had a lot of things to say about they don't want Gainesville to have tall buildings. But what people need to understand is that we're creating jobs at a rate that is really giving us it's giving me comfort, especially with the tough economy, knowing that in Gainesville right now, if you want to work, there's a job for you. We have so many jobs available in Gainesville. What we really need now is we really need a strategy for this job development over the next 10 years. And I know that the Chamber has 5-year plans for how Gainesville, what companies Gainesville needs to attract, what industries Gainesville needs to attract. But the city government currently does not have an economic development strategy. And so for me, this is something that I want to change. I want the city of Gainesville to have an economic development strategy where we're working hand in hand with the Chamber, but we're also working with other business interests and other career technical training and job training interests in the city, because we really need to be aligning our talents and aligning our population with the kind of jobs that are coming to Gainesville and that we're trying to attract. And it is more attractive now than it has ever been. So this is another really, really important issue. And that also deals with East Gainesville, because we know that over generally the whole history of the city, East Gainesville has had very different development patterns than the rest of the city. And what we need to do is we need to make critical investments that has been lacking so far. For example, an after-hours clinic has been lacking. A standalone grocery store that isn't Walmart has been lacking, and long overdue renovations of city facilities and public facilities has also been lacking. So we do have a clinic that we are going to build with the help of UF Health, and we are just completing the renovations of the Clarence R. Kelly. Actually, it's a whole new building. The Clarence R. Kelly Center in the Duval neighborhood is a fantastic amenity for that neighborhood. And now we're talking about potentially renovating Citizens Field, the Martin Luther King Jr. Center, and the surrounding fields. So we really have a lot of opportunity for East Gainesville. But after being on the commission for 5 years, I've seen what happens when you talk ideas to death instead of taking action. And so I want to take action as mayor and follow through on the promises we've made. We do have money set aside for some of these projects, and we do have the Wild Spaces Public Places surtax with infrastructure and housing added on to that now this year, which is going to be a huge financial boon for a lot of these projects. So, going back to what I said at the very beginning, lots of hope right now for the future of Gainesville.
Very good. Okay, next question is, and again, kind of a good segue. What do you think the role of the mayor is in Gainesville?
I think historically the role of the mayor has been to set the meeting of the city, set the agendas for the city commission, and to lead the city commission as an equal. I think that the role of the mayor has to be a role in which there is concentrated action towards all the goals of the city, and not just of the city commission and not just of the government. I think that it takes experience on the city commission to run the city meetings and to be able to handle facilitating not just public comment, but the debate between city commissioners and the staff to really make public policy. And that's where I think my experience really is above my colleagues. I had the unique honor of being selected mayor pro tempore twice during the years of the pandemic. And I think that was really a nod of respect for my colleagues, for my leadership capabilities, to be able to guide the room during difficult meetings and during difficult discussions. So that is first and foremost the job of the mayor, but it's also the job of the mayor to inspire people in the city. It's the job of the mayor to ensure that folks are being heard, not just in the sense that we hear their opinions on policy, but that we're hearing their issues and that we're hearing their ideas for opportunity and their ideas for economic development in Gainesville. And I think the mayor has a huge part to play, both as a spokesperson for the city, but also a listening ear for the citizens of Gainesville. And I think I have those qualities, which is another reason why I'm running for the seat. I think it does fit my skill set that I've developed as a city commissioner very well.
Very good. Okay, and you've touched on this a little bit, but this is another opportunity to drill down a bit, which is what would be your top priorities and projects? Should you?
Yeah, the first thing that I would pursue is immediately raising funds for dedicated funding for housing. We are looking at 2 zoning reforms this year, which at the end of this term they will be taken up. But that's not all we need to do for housing. We need to be raising funds through an affordable housing bond, which is done all over the country, and it is similar to the Wild Spaces Public Places taxes in the sense that it goes on the ballot, so people have to vote for it. But it is not a sales tax. It is a charge that shows up on property tax rolls anywhere between $70, $90 to $100, depending on the size of your property. And the city actually has to pay this bond back. And over time, as we collect rents from these affordable housing units, that we would either build new ones or we would maintain existing units, because there is a lot of existing housing in Gainesville that just needs to be maintained with some resources that currently private investors or private homeowners are not putting into it. So I think that it is a really unique time for housing in Gainesville, and we need lots of resources for it. The other issue that I think is really important is GRU. When I got elected, the city commission, actually during my campaign, my first campaign for city commission, the board was taking votes to buy out the biomass plant, which was a contract that got signed back when I was in high school. And I don't say that to show my age. I say that to show that one of the lessons of government is that you have to step in and clean up messes that you had nothing to do with. And so what I do now have is I have experience in really guiding the utility out of some really tough times. Back in 2017, we were looking at a fiscal cliff in 5 years, the utility running out of cash. We're 5 years later now. The utility is nowhere near running out of cash. We are now at a stable place where we have financial reserves. We have a minimum reserve balance policy. We're reducing what the city commission is spending of GRU money. We do have high leverage, and that's an issue, but we have been able to successfully refinance a lot of our commercial paper so that we can pass savings on to customers. We are at a much better place than we were 5 years ago, but we're not done yet. We still have to navigate GRU's future over the next 10 years, and I'm confident that we can. And then I touched on a lot of issues with economic development. I think it's hugely important. I didn't mention one of the projects that I think is really exciting. It's actually coming before the City Commission today, called the Infinity Line. It was an idea designed by a former city staffer who also got their degree at UF. And the idea is, what if we could connect all of Gainesville's bicycle rails to trails? And if you did, it would look like an infinity sign with the convergence at Depot Park, which would really be really neat. Cool. And the cool thing about this is the city already owns most of it. So what we really need to do is conduct a feasibility study to see what needs to be done to connect the rest of the connect the rest of the trails. And what we're looking at is significant investment on the Waldo Road corridor, because the Waldo Road Trail is one of the major pieces, and there's a lot of land out there that can be used for economic development if we were able to place the right amenities and the right attractions next to it. So I think that this is a really huge opportunity for us.
Okay, terrific. Okay, so the next question is, there has been significant turmoil on the commission and with city staff. Yes. How do you think this is best addressed? Well,
my approach during those turbulent times was to have and create space for conversations, difficult conversations with my staff, my charter officers. Each one of them was coming from very different perspectives. And in the city of Gainesville charter, oh, my computer is about to die. I need to get a.
Okay, here,
I need to. Yeah, hold on.
I'll pause this for a sec.
Okay.
Okay.
So going back to the issues, I asked for a lot of officers to stay. You know, they were coming from a place of, they did not feel as though they were being given the respect that their positions deserved. And one of my colleagues resigned for the same reasons. As mayor, I'm going to seek to ensure that I create spaces for not just my colleagues. You know, city commissioners can't have policy conversations with one another, but we can have discussions about how we're feeling in the workplace. We can have discussions about how we feel like we're being treated. And so what I have always endeavored to do is to reach out and have, you know, private conversations, not necessarily about, you know, what the policy is happening at the city, but how people feel as though they're being treated by coworkers. This is important, especially for a board level position to take, because we don't hire most of the city employees. We only hire the 6 charter officers. And so typically when issues come to the city commission, it's because they're big enough to cause a problem and they need to be dealt with. And I think in the past, I've seen commissioners unwilling to even have difficult conversations about management issues because unfortunately we have a system that does not make it easy to have public evaluations of your officers. When you know, if I'm being candid, folks can come and say whatever they want about public officers. The public elected officials, we sort of, you know, I wouldn't say we sign up for some of it, but it is par for the course. But I think that we've really seen a lot of people decide to leave City Hall because the City Commission has not been willing to grapple with issues as they come up. And as mayor and even as commissioner, I've tried my best to give a voice to city employees and let them feel heard. I think also the mayor has to take seriously their role as a leader. And I think in the instances where I tried to speak out, I was just one commissioner. Sometimes I had another commissioner beside me, but I think if the mayor is trying hard to create these spaces for employees to have candid and frank conversations and really, allow them to overcome conflict, because conflict isn't always bad. But it's how you perceive conflict, and it's how you address it. Because if you're able to look at conflict with the attitude that you want to have a positive outcome, you can only have that attitude if you feel confident in the facilitator of that conflict. Because if you don't feel confident that you have a space where your concerns are really being heard and taken into account, you're typically not going to have a positive outlook on how that's going to resolve itself. So I have learned a lot over the last few years watching folks come to the decision to leave the government. But at the same time, my responsibility has always been to govern with the people in mind. And we need to make sure that we're keeping our good officers and especially we're keeping commissioners because there is a cost to the people when there's this type of turnover and turmoil.
Very good. Okay, and then we have one final question, which is the big wrap-up question, which is, why should members of the business community vote for you?
Well, I would point out first that I was the city commissioner that re-engaged the city of Gainesville with the Chamber of Commerce. There used to be, I think, a mentality where we were on opposite sides of working with the people, and I think there was a negative effect of that. And the reason why I re-engaged is because I really view my role as a public servant. I know these are political campaigns. I know these are political offices, and I have my political opinions. But at the end of the day, my job is to ensure that everyone in Gainesville is getting an opportunity to enjoy their quality of life and have a city that is the best place to raise their family. And while we might disagree about how to get there, it is important that we at least share that same vision. And so for me, what I would say is that I'm taking seriously the major issues of the community. I think that a lot of times when the business community is speaking to the commission and speaking to political candidates, there's a lot of discussion about the past and what has not gone right. But I'm looking forward to the future. And I think that Gainesville's future is very bright. Particularly for the business community. And so I want the city of Gainesville to be a partner in that. Really, I want us to also be a leader in that effort. And so, my other opponents, I haven't really heard what their economic development plans are. I've heard their opinions on public policy. I've heard their opinions on zoning. I've heard their opinions on what the city should be spending its money on. But I very rarely hear a platform on business development, job training, and economic development. And all of these things are important to the business community. So I really think I'm the only candidate who's offering a wide enough breadth of solutions and proposals that really befits a city that's growing like ours. So I understand that there might be members who have had disagreements with me in the past about votes or about issues in the city, and certainly GRU rates are a hot discussion right now for a lot of business owners. But I'm not ignoring the issue, and I'm not trying to explain away the issue. I'm trying to deal with it with forthright action. So what I would say to the business community is, with me, you're getting a public servant that is very clear about what I'm going to do, about the actions I'm willing to take, and then I follow through on them, which I think is something that at least the business community can look at and say, this is someone that we can work with. This is someone who will listen to us, give us the time of day, and this is someone who's going to follow through on what they say.
Very good. Okay, so we have about a minute or so for you to wrap it up and bring it home for us.
Well, all I would really add to everything I've said today is that Gainesville's my home. I think everyone who is choosing to make Gainesville their home, they do so for different reasons. My reason is because I love it here. I was born and raised in this community. I'm a Buchholz Bobcat. I did go to Santa Fe for a little bit before transferring to Flagler College in St. Augustine. But the Gainesville I grew up in, and most likely the Gainesville that your members grew up in, is not the same anymore. Gainesville was never, ever built to hold this many people. Our infrastructure is lagging because of that. Our housing is lagging, but also our approach to these problems, I think right now, is lagging. I've been a member of the City Commission for 5 years, which is the maximum experience you can really get because you have term limits in Gainesville. But I have not been, I've not been a, I'm still pretty new to this, if that makes sense. Not in the sense of new to government, but new to the political scene. And a lot of folks have been doing this for 20, 30, 40 years. And so I think there's a lot more growth potential for Gainesville than what my opponents have led on. So I thank you for considering. If you've made it to the end of this, it means you are considering voting for me. So I very much appreciate that. And really, I invite anybody who has any more detailed questions or their own questions to reach out to my campaign. We want to engage with folks. We want to have a dialogue.
Very good. All righty. Thank you so much, David. And I just wanted to emphasize that our election is Tuesday, August 23rd. At the chamber, we are very focused on making sure everyone's voice does get heard. So please keep an eye on our website. You'll find a lot of information about our candidates. You'll find all the deadlines and information you need to know to get out and vote. Thanks again, David. Always good to talk to you.
Thank you.